Hey guys, Team London here for US Capital, sitting here with Prodi Bhattacharya and Roger Allen. I'm Jack Alars. I work here as an associate in the team.
Hi, I'm Prodi Bhattacharya. I'm a managing director. I cover our structured credit group over here. So I not only look at credit for the UK and Europe, but I also look at credit globally for the business.
I'm Roger Allen. I opened the London office 4 years ago for Jeff, and I think this is the best crew we've had. So I tend to look a lot more at the growth equity side, a little less at the credit side, where Prodi is a very specialized expert there. And I think one of the great things we have going globally is the communication is fantastic.
So Prodi, we've seen the rise in private credit lately and how that's disrupted the banks in the market. How are you seeing the banks with lending and what companies should be going to for different institutions?
Look, banks are there, they serve a purpose, but the problem is that they are fair weather lenders. So if there's a little bit of volatility or interest rates start to rise, banks tend to get very anxious. So they draw very strict boxes around what they lend to and what they lend against. And, if those parameters aren't met, then sadly it's not a bank deal. That leaves a lot of reasonably decent deals out there who are struggling to raise capital because for some reason they're just not hitting all the boxes that they need to for a bank to be able to lend, and therefore they are kind of struggling to raise that debt that they're looking for. And that's the gap that the private debt markets have kind of stepped in and are very effectively plugging. So the fact that private debt can be a lot more flexible, look, we don't need a coupon on day one, we can roll up the coupon so that you can pay this debt towards the back end, we can do a little bit higher LTV than a bank could, we can change the kind of payment terms so that, the fees are structured over the duration of the term of the loan. So all these little niche tweaks and customization, creating a bespoke solution for each individual borrower, makes private credit a great solution. The downside of that is bank money is still cheaper than private credit money. So there is still a gap between those two worlds that investors are kind of struggling to fill. So the solution seems to be moving towards the private credit side, but if anyone can get a bank loan, they will prefer to get a bank loan because it's just significantly cheaper. But over the longer term, it's looking like private credit has a very niche area and is definitely growing. It's one of the fastest growing areas of the private markets in general.
And you touched there a little bit on cheap money. I think investors are still confused, getting mixed signals around, will interest rates go up, stay, remain, or come down? Obviously, most people are thinking they're going to come down, but inflation reads is saying different things. What are you saying?
Look, I mean, it's one of those things that is inflation going to disappear overnight? No, it suits the governments to have high interest rates because effectively you're eroding away your future interest rate payments through this kind of higher interest rate regime environment. So, I think interest rates are not going to go down anytime soon, or not go down significantly anytime soon, which means this is the new normal. We are staying in the new normal. And that's kind of what investors and borrowers need to kind of get used to, is that if this is the new normal, we need to know the new rules around how to borrow and how to structure transactions in a way that is optimal to this ongoing interest rate regime.
And Roger, obviously we're seeing this in the debt markets, slightly elevated interest rates. How are you seeing this flow into the private markets, especially on the equity side of things, when investors are now looking for those equity investments into startups?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because, there's deals out there where there's both equity and debt, but the equity has to come first. We focus pretty much on anything that's clean. We're sector agnostic. We'll stay away from bad things like coal and stuff like that. But there is naturally a huge demand for all of the sort of new fashionable things. AI and ML, so artificial intelligence, machine learning. There's a zillion uses for this. And as ever, when something is perceived to be new, although it actually has been around a lot longer than people think, but ChatGPT brought it to the fore, there's so many ways that people can monetize this and applications to really make life better for big corporates and perhaps one day even people like the NHS will benefit from it. But that's a big political problem that we have in the UK here. So when we look at growth equity, just to sort of let people know what we mean by that is we don't do startups. There's got to be revenue. So there's a proof of concept. Someone is prepared to pay for the service or for the product that's being made. So that revenue positive is what we look for at a minimum. We aim particularly at small to medium-sized businesses where, the bigger names in the banking world, they're not interested in a $50 million deal. They want a $50 million fee. So there's a wide open space to give a very top level of professional service, which US Capital does.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.